Hey, how's everybody? Woo! You're looking good. I've missed you. It's been too long. I mean, we started this morning as friends. I feel we're moving towards family now. So I'm around for a few days if you want to invite me over the weekend to barbecues or to christenings or any weddings. Do we have any weddings? We have a birth over here, do we not? We have somebody about to give birth, I think. Yes, they're waving at me. So if we hear crying later, you know what's happening. So now, I think I stand between you and lunch. Is that correct? Yeah. So you can see that as there's two gentlemen there desperate for their lunch. They're probably off to Burger King. But you can see that as an opportunity or a threat. So let's see it as an opportunity that another 40 minutes with me, your appetite will be bursting, you'll be looking forward to the gourmet lunch, to the buffet, and you'll enjoy it even more. And then it can't get any better, but it does, because you come back and I think I'm the first speaker on after lunch. I know. So, following the last speaker, I had no idea about the production of what I will now call rubber duckies. So thank you for that. So I had no idea that so much went into them. So listen. We've got, I guess, about 40 minutes, but if I hear rumblings of tummies, then we might have to exit a little bit quicker. So I want to continue from this morning with the, shall we call it, thought leadership. So you've had some, just like the last presentation, quite pragmatic presentations about the whole end-to-end process. You heard all about negotiation, about contract management, about supplier relationship management, and about category management, and even something about specifications as well. So I just want to take us out of that into a, shall we say, a higher plane, and talk a little bit about some of the other opportunities, those things that people refer to as added value. So most of you, most of us now are friends, so you know who I am, you know my background, you know that I've been there, done it, faced some of the challenges that you have, and that my background has been to study this thing we call procurement and supply chain, and to fully understand it as best that I can. And that I work with companies facilitating change and developing people. So the topic that the organisers gave me, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, is bigger than my presentation. So the topic here is quite a big, as they say, a big mouthful. By the way, the organisers said to me, I've worked with them before, and they're very generous and very lovely people. And they took me to Johannesburg. Anyone in from Johannesburg? One lady here, a couple of people there. So lovely place, lovely people. And they said, if I was good, if I worked hard and behaved myself, I would see the promised land. I would come to Cape Town, brothers and sisters. And I would see and I would meet the fantastic people of Cape Town. So thank you very much for embracing me. But enjoyed speaking in Joburg. Been there many, many times. So the topic that I was asked to speak on, so we can think about thought leadership, get us into a mindset of thinking bigger, thinking what more can procurement do, was making progress on society's biggest problems requires procurement to make better use of data, involve citizens, and collaborate with other sectors. It sounds a little bit like Miss World, and she's going to save the planet, and she's going to be good to children, doesn't it? So it's one of those big sweeping statements, and quite probably intimidating when we first read that. How can we involve citizens and collaborate with other sectors? So I'm going to talk a little bit in the first half, about 10 or 15 minutes, just about the background to that question. And then I'm going to talk about a small case study. Well, it's a very big case study, but I'm just going to give you a flavour of something that I did that incorporated the elements of that question. So you've heard this before. I know this because I've sat in and listened to other speakers this morning talking about the 3 Ps: profit, people, and planet. And obviously here we're going to talk a bit more about people and planet. We've heard in the last presentation a bit more, particularly in the private sector, about the drive for bottom line, expressed in every pound saved is a pound of profit, or every pound lost, spent, I think it was, every pound spent is a reduction in profit. So I thought that was a very neat, a very concise example. So we're going to talk a little bit today about people and planet. So what can we do in this triple bottom line? Because this is what anchors us in involving society and giving society and our community a little bit of a broader delivery. So we have something called the Social Value Act. You'll have something similar, but it requires public sector procurement to consider social, environmental and economic value at the pre-procurement stage. So let's just think about what that could mean. So if we're thinking about how we can be better citizens, if we're in a public sector environment, department, if we're in private and we're a big provider of services and employment in an area, we should think about how we can give more to the local community. So not everybody works, not everybody can work, not everybody is in employment. Not everybody considers that they can be in employment. They'd like to be, but maybe there's some misalignment, maybe they don't consider themselves to be capable. So we can adapt our workplace, we can adapt our jobs, we can bring them in to do certain tasks and train them. So we can assist through work experience, we can assist through apprenticeships to try to get people into work and engage them in the business. We can do things where my previous employer, AXA, the financial services company, have done a lot in mental health. Big awareness campaign. It's something, shall we say, a bit of a taboo. Not everybody talks about it. People with depression. But they're making that more, shall we say, speak out about it and try to improve people's mental health, as well as our work-life balance. So a lot more flexibility now, instead of these horrible cubicle workplaces. I don't know, do some of you have that? The cubicles where you have to sit there? Yes. So, and every day you have to travel in and travel out because that's where your job is located. So trying to change that, giving people more flexibility and increasing the diversity in our workplace. In the UK, we've had a big awareness campaign again around modern slavery, about paying the minimum, under the minimum wage to some people for menial tasks and treating them badly. And there's been the professional body, the CIPS, have done a big campaign about making people like us well aware that this exists in supply chains and making sure our supply chains are clean and well managed. I talked this morning about how procurement jump into some spaces to add value, just so we're not seen as price cutters, cost cutters. That's not our only value that we add to the business. And social responsibility, giving back to the local environment, and making sure that we're seen as a responsible employer. So I don't know how many of you know this man. He's called Sting. So he plays a guitar and he sings, and he's a bit of an activist. He's trying to, or spent a lot of his time saving rainforests and protecting parts of the planet for our future generations. So I don't really know why I'm talking much about Sting, because I don't think he goes and plays his big concerts and mentions me. But maybe one day he will. But Sting is well known for being an environmentalist, an activist, and talking about rainforests and making us aware. As I mentioned this morning, I mentioned plastics. There's a great series of programs kicked off, I think, with Blue Planet. Again, making us aware of the oceans, how we're eroding our world and taking away habitat for animals and populations as well, and communities. So part of what we can do that's a broader prospect away from just following the procurement of goods and services is to make sure that our supply chains are sustainable, and things that I mentioned, plastics this morning, are eradicated because they're very harmful, and that biodegradable goods replace them. So in this part of the world, is water still in scarce supply? Are we still rationed for water? Good, because I didn't have a shower this morning, so I just want you to know. Don't get too close to me, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm, but my excuse is, I've saved a little bit of water for you when I go. So things like that, we need to do more. We don't want to be without essential things like water. So environmental measures that we can adopt. We can look at things to help society, to help the broader community outside of our business. It's not just a public sector. It's a responsibility of procurement to think broader than just the direct line of materials or even the indirect goods and services that we buy, to think about, are the materials going to be, can we recycle them? Can we reduce waste? The so-called Western world is incredibly wasteful